Hello, dear listeners and dear YouTube viewers. Hi, for all people that are learning more information about data and that are passionate to learn. Hope everything is fantastic. And let's start our podcast that is called Coding Invaders Podcast, in which we share with you beautiful stories of successful people who have decided to connect their life with the data. So this podcast is perfect for people who would like to enter the data analytics or data science world and are afraid of making a first step or are just thinking about how to jumpstart their career in the IT field. We invite various bright minds that made a tremendous career in data science from India and ask them questions about their work, life, and attitude. My name is Raman Kumar Vyas. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer of Coding Invaders, an online educational platform that teaches people data analysis and data science from scratch. So if you're looking for career change and want to get a profession in data analytics, we will glad to announce the launch of data analytics specialization. Within 6 months, you will learn all the skills and tools required to enter the data analytics field. Podcast listeners and our YouTube viewers also can get extra 10% discount with the code word coding podcast. Please leave your reviews on the platforms where you are listening to our podcast: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. This will help us to get higher ranking. More people will be able to listen to our interviews. We do this for you and we want to bring you like maximum benefit. So, and if you have a question about data, IT career to our guests, please send us your question in audio format and we will ask the most interesting of them on our podcast. So send your questions to info at the rate of codinginvaders.com. Thank you very much, guys. And let me introduce to you Mr. Satnam Singh, who is a very experienced person in the data science field. And moreover, here is a marathon runner and rock climber. And that's amazing. Satnam, thank you very much for being here. It's a big honor for us to have you here and to speak with you.
Yes, thank you for your invitation, and it's my pleasure to be here. And I'm looking forward for this wonderful engagement and conversation with you guys and with your audience.
Thank you very much, Satnam. Would you be so kind to introduce yourself to our audience?
Yes, sure. Myself, Satnam, and it's a very interesting journey in machine learning and AI. You can say like my career in ML was born when the word itself was not born. The word ML was not new; it was not so fancy, and I was more fascinated about stats and machine learning. So I picked up, and that was like way back in 2003 and 2004 when I started doing my PhD. And my PhD was in factorial hidden Markov models. And I build the models, I build algorithms for DARPA and also for Toyota. And that's when I realized that my passion is to build algorithms to solve the real world problems. And I had various career journeys and career paths. I thought, okay, should I go an academics route or should I be in the industry? I chose the later because I wanted to be close to the data, and the data is more with the industry. It's not like, in order to get the data in academia, it's very hard. So I chose to be in industry. And so after finishing my PhD from University of Connecticut, UConn, and in US, I came back to India, and then I worked for General Motors, Samsung, CA Technologies, and now I am with Acalvio from last 5 years. So it has been very exciting journey in this journey of applying data science, machine learning, AI into real life. And I've been lucky to have a privilege of working at so many different companies and so many different domains, right from automobile to IT infrastructure and now IT security at Acalview, and also at some point work on smartphones as well. So it's been very exciting journey, and now we are doing a very fantastic cutting edge work at Acalvio, where we are applying a combination of deception and AI to move the needle and to solve uh, more of like the information security problem, which is a very big one, but at least this new concept which we are bringing together, it is making some impact in the life.
Okay, and thank you very much. Thank you very much. And do you remember the time when you, and um, maybe the time and the place when you when you started thinking that yes, I would like to connect my life with the data? What was your trigger?
Yeah, so my trigger was I was doing my PhD, and that time I was more fascinated with data and stats, and with algorithms, and I got an opportunity where I could actually pursue that path. So it was actually in the real world. There was actually that time 9/11 happened, and there were lots of projects were given by DARPA to various universities, and so one such project we got it at UConn, and there the requirement was like to build these stochastic models that can predict a terrorist act or activity. So it was a problem where I had to infer the signal out of lots of noise. So that intriguing problem, which is so complex, it actually caught my eye. And then, my professors were so supportive and nice that all the PI conferences that where the principal investigators, where typically professors go, they used to send me and my friend, my colleague, and we used to get an opportunity to go and meet with analysts, counter terrorism analysts, interview them, take that feedback, and then sort of like codify it into the stochastic models. So that connecting with the real world problem is the one which made me excited to stick to the data.
Hmm.
So that's what I didn't thought of like as what the career path would be, or what will be the scenario after a decade or so. Those kind of questions didn't come to me, because I realized that this is a problem which is very exciting, and which needs to be solved. And we jumped into the problem, and then it was just like, now looking back into those 10 15 years of my journey, it's more about, yes, problem by problem. And and I've been lucky to have those interesting problems to work at.
Okay, so you talk so much about real life problems and real life projects. Would you be so kind to tell us about the projects you are most proud of?
Yeah, so there have been multiple projects. I think in almost like at every enterprise, I have been proud of contributing there. So there are two things. First of all, in data science, data scientists alone is not really who plays a big role. It's a multiple team. I mean, like just like in any other project, it's a team effort.
Hmm.
So because as a data scientist, okay, yes, you will be designing the algorithm and so forth, or you will be massaging the data and doing the entire machine learning pipeline. But then the domain knowledge, you don't have that domain knowledge, so you have to collaborate with the domain expert, depending on where you work with. So in like in the case of when I was at UConn, that was like the very first part. I actually talked to the various counterterrorism experts. That's where my domain knowledge came. When I worked at General Motors, I worked at various. I collaborated with multiple stakeholders at General Motors, like in the engine department, those who were engine designers, and these are the folks who were like who knows the inside out of any General Motors engine. And it's like an honor of talking to somebody who's an in-depth, who has spent 25 years just knowing about the engines, right?
Wow,
And when
wow.
we go there and we go and talk to them, I was like a fairly young at that time. I'm just talking like 12 13 years ago. And so there we got to understand the diagnostic trouble codes, DTCs, and the engine control parameters. How do they affect those DTCs? How do they affect the engine performance? How do we find the clusters which can point out to those anomalies or the faults into the automobile? And then just like I said, like you need to talk to the domain experts. So we talk to the quality experts, the quality engineers, because one of the solution was in quality engine in to improve the quality of General Motors vehicles. So, multiple such projects at General Motors where I interacted with the domain experts, and that journey moved on. Like at CA Technologies, I worked on the IT infrastructure side. At Samsung, I worked more on, say, thinking about the algorithms in the smartphone. And at every point, actually, we were ahead of the innovation curve, and we were ahead of our peers or competition. uh, because see, the journey of AI is like, okay, yes, you have to think ahead and then partner with the domain expert and then apply those AI algorithms and then solve, make a solution to the problem. And so speed to the market also matters a lot. And so I would say that most proud of is the recent the last 5 years at Acalvio, which we have along with our founders here. I am one of the first few hires at Acalvio, and we have built a product from scratch. Whiteboard, there is nothing, and then we have built a one platform which provides a combination of deception and AI to protect endpoints, to protect enterprises, their
Uh,
network from ransomware and from crypto miners and so forth.
okay, thank you very much. And is it true that right now, I mean, in terms of automotive industry, it's like a common sense, or can it, is it really true that like 20 years ago, the cars were really better, so you do not need to you didn't need to spend much time on repairment, and right now cars are projected so they can be broken in a year, so you can buy another spare parts for it, and to spend much money on repairment. Is it really so, or maybe the reason is in some other field?
So I think, in a nutshell, what you're trying to ask is, what are the different use cases that exist, in the case of automobile, AI, or sort of like data science. Is that what you're leading to?
Oh, actually, yeah, actually not, but this will be also interesting for our audience. Yes, how data science is used in the automotive industry. You told us already that there are some parameters that you analyze in terms of engine, and what else?
Yeah. So as I said, like, so automobile, first of all, there are different phases where the data is collected. So the one is like, when you're designing the data, when you're designing a vehicle. So at that time, the data you collect from the test fleet. So that test fleet data is collected at the real time. And so you collect lots of engine parameters, and there you want to identify the faults. They are occurring in the very early phases, which you when you have not rolled out any production vehicles. So the more faults you can actually anticipate in the early phase, during the design phase itself,
Wow.
then you can actually save the warranty cost, and you can save lots of recall cost of the vehicle, right? Because if there are
Hmm.
problems happen, like recently, I was hearing that sort of like reading that there were issues in some particular manufacturers batteries, right?
Hmm.
So, and then they had to recall, like sort of like the whole fleet for that model year. So now imagine, like the millions of dollars of cost, if that can be avoided, if you can catch the fault earlier,
Hmm.
and you can simulate or you can anticipate those changes earlier, and as much as you can detect them early. So that's the one part of it. And then that's like, how do you catch it early on? And that's where the algorithms can be used. And then there are phases like, okay, yes, now you have rolled out a vehicle, so now it is there in the field, so there are lots of quality issues are coming. So can you detect the emerging issues, emerging problems? And so that, like, let's say you have rolled out only 20,000 vehicles, and you can see some problem is emerging. So you can actually make a solution to that right away. And instead of waiting for 150,000 vehicles to be in the field, and then you are rolling down the solution. So that's another class of problems and class of algorithms you apply in that space. And then you have the problem where, let's say, your vehicles are there in the field, which have been like 4 years, 5 years, or 10 years out of warranty as well. Now you have a data coming from that as well. So how do you reduce your warranty costs? How do you improve your customer satisfaction? How do you increase the root cause analysis? How do you reduce the repeat visits of the customer? All these are different problem segments and problem definitions that has to be addressed by the data.
Okay, great, great. And the Tesla, for example, they have the software installed in their vehicles, so they can like share the data about the condition of the car, like in the real time, and process it. Does it really help get like to get more quicker, more fast improvements?
Oh, yes. Yes. So when you collect the real-time data, that real-time, this is actually in the automobile area. This is called onboard diagnostics. So
Mm-hmm.
you are collecting the data in the real time. So that definitely helps you, because you know what were the conditions at that time, and you can actually you can have the multiple algorithms. You can look at more of a signature based, where you can define what's the pattern of those parameters, and then you can define the correlation with the fault. Or you can have some, like an algorithms based or machine learning based approach, where you know what were the parameters for over a time, and you actually train a particular classifier, and that classifier is actually sort of like representing a class of specific faults. So this problem is vast, and there are I would say that it's very sophisticated problems and very deep, where you have a whole bunch of like some 15, 20 engineers, or combination of a team of engineers
Mm-hmm.
sort of looking at these issues and collecting the data, making machine learning models, deploying it real time, updating those models, and so forth.
Okay, thank you very much. Uh, you worked at Samsung Electronics. How is data science used in this field, and for what? What is mobile data analytics and mobile data mining? Would you be so kind to explain us more about that?
Yeah, so when you think about like a smartphone, right? All the data is being collected by a smartphone, and everything. There is sort of like a saying, right? That you yourself don't know about you, but your phone knows
Yes,
more about you, or Google knows more about you. That part
exactly.
is true, right? So the same thing here. So when I worked at, we were sort of a frontier in Samsung in making a new hypothesis that why we need to send uh, your own data to the cloud and share with others, because the privacy was a concern. And so now there are new concepts which are coming up of privacy aware AI or privacy aware machine learning. So we worked a few aspects of that. We said, okay, let the data remain in the devices, and then can we make the customer experience or users experience much more enriching. See, for example, let's say contacts, right?
Hmm.
You have multiple contacts, you sync up from Google, you sync up from, say, from your WhatsApp, or you sync up from three more apps or four more apps. So you may have like some duplicate contacts. So you may name somebody else, like something with let's say Satnam, and then you may have Satnam rock climber, Satnam running. So just somebody who's like saving my name in their phone, like depending on the context, they may actually save accordingly, right? So if somebody who is a friend of mine who is more of a cyclist, right, he may
Hmm.
save my name as Satnam, BWCC, which is the cycling club name we have,
Hmm.
Bangalore Whitefield Cycling Club. And then we have, Satnam BCI, Bangalore Climbing Initiative. So some or the Satnam climbing instructor. So, but it's the one Satnam only. But he has, let's say, three, four other ways. He has saved the same name. So we came up with a sort of like a smart contacts, which will collect a lot more other data from the user's phone. And since it's the same person, and it has some more other contexts, that the same location and all that, then it used to suggest that, oh yes, it is the same person, do you want to merge it? And so
Hmm.
it will reduce the clutter. So this is the
Okay.
one particular use case where we used to merge the different pictures from, say, Satnam's Facebook or Instagram, and then pick those images and then sort of like suggest that as a profile pic in the photo. Because many times you have some 95% of your contacts are like in the phone. Yeah, until unless you yourself assign an image to them, they don't have images. So it will, with your permission, it will actually bring those images, assign them, and you can approve them. So now you have a photo and the name together, and then also reduce the clutter. So that's one example. We
Hmm.
had lots of
Hmm.
other such examples where smart gallery, we made galleries with a more context, that okay, when was the last trip happened, then combined that trip with the previous rock climbing trip, and then the three, four rock climbing trips, all those photos together, and then made a rock climbing album. So
Hmm.
all these were like sort of like AI use cases. And most of these we worked on quite long time back, but now you see them in various apps, you see them in Google Photos also. So these things may not surprise you now, because you have seen those use cases,
Hmm.
but I'm pretty sure that there are lots of interesting use cases you can see today as well. Like there was, I saw somewhere, like you can take a photo and then you can make a video on that, and so it will make you very interesting. So somebody like you have um, so there are lots of interesting use cases are there. So the one I worked on were smartphone, smart contacts, smart gallery, and there were few more, but these were the ones which actually came into the production.
It's great when you can see the results of your work and the product and feature that is based on your work. That's
Yes,
great.
yes,
That's great. That's
yeah.
great. Okay, thank you very much. But could you please tell us more about how data science and artificial intelligence are used to defend against cyber attacks? Because as we know, you work in Acalvio and build a data science and deception product to defend against cyber attacks. Could you please specify how can data analytics and data science be used to defend against cyber attacks? And that it's a very, I think it's very interesting field for our listeners. What is cyber attack? How is it really true that there are more than 10 cyber attacks in a second in the world? How does it look like?
Yeah, so let's start from the last sentence you
Uh-huh.
left here. The cyber attacks are increasing day by day, and if you have heard of Solarwinds attack, which recently happened in U.S. enterprises and U.S. federal government agencies, that was like sort of like a equivalent of a 9/11 in cybersecurity. So attackers somehow took over the GitHub repository in one of the product in SolarWinds, and they put a malicious bits over there. They put a malware there, and then along with the product update bits, that malware also went through. And
Hmm.
since that entire product code itself was hacked, right? So nobody can question that. Like so when you, it's just like Microsoft update, right? So when you do a Microsoft
Hmm.
update, you're not gonna be questioning that, oh, it is somebody may have hacked, and should I do an
Of
update or
course.
not, right?
Yeah.
So you basically say that, okay, Microsoft has released an update, and I should upgrade it so that, because it will save my computer, it will protect my computer against the different vulnerabilities which were exposed by the Microsoft team, or by red teamers, or by all the defenders.
Exactly.
So you basically upgrade your computer, right?
Hmm.
So, but in this case also, SolarWinds attack, the same thing happened, and enterprises actually upgraded their computers, and which were like one of the enterprise product, which is by SolarWinds. So through that, malware came in, and then uh, the estimate is like the hack actually happened like sometime way back, like some 9 to 10 months back. And so the attackers were there in the enterprises from 9 to 10 months, and nobody knew it. And so they were actually listening to various conversations, and so they actually uh, so they upgraded, and they went into the different higher privilege computers, and they did a privilege escalation and did a persistence into the various key computers. So they took over some of the high privileged document domains, and they were after, it was done by one of the nationwide attacker. So they were after the information, and based on that information, they wanted to do
Hmm.
something. So since they were attacking the federal governments, and if you, before that, if you have heard of WannaCry, right? The WannaCry, actually, there the attention of attackers were to uh, get the ransom to make money. So cyber attacks are increasing day by day. It's getting very common. In fact, the WannaCry attacks were very prominent in small businesses in Bangalore, in India itself. So I know a couple of SMBs, small and medium businesses, and I had a conversations with them about WannaCry. So we should actually, this is a time when we have to be along along with our cybersecurity, and with our cyber presence. We need to take cybersecurity as more seriously, and also enterprises are definitely working towards that, and making sure that they have the proper practices, and they have the also the right tools to do the monitoring and protection. So the way AI can help is, AI can actually monitor the various data sources and the nitty gritty of that. Like, I can give one example that when you look at the networks, so there are different network packets, and you can look at the network, how many bytes in, bytes out. You may sort of like make a ratio of that and then see, is there any exploitation attempt going on? Or you look at a URL, and is that URL is making a call to some domain which is random, or it is some malicious domain. So each of
Okay.
these problems are like very very uh, sort of like a class of organizations itself, or vendors itself. They provide the tool. Now, what we thought of at Acalvio when we started at 5 years ago, that we don't want to be giving a passive security way where you actually keep on watching somebody that, okay, yes, you come from here, so I'm going to protect this gate, I'm going to stop this gate.
Mm-hmm.
So just like, for example, let's say WannaCry claim. So you upgrade your antivirus and you look for that signature on the file name, and it's more of a rule-based approach. Or let's say you update your classifier engine, and then you detect the WannaCry presence. What we are saying is we want to make more of an active security where we can actually put some kind of a deceptions, and then it's like a motion sensor at home. So somebody, a thief comes in, the motion sensor will detect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, or think of like you have a jewelry at home. So you that jewelry you can also keep like some fake jewelry also, some 2-3 copies of that, the real one
Uh-huh.
and the fake. And the fake
Uh-huh.
one and the real one, all of them have a sensors attached to it. Now, if the thief comes in and he steals all of it, now obviously that sensor will give you alarm. The fake one, if he is able to get only the fake one, then that will also give you an alarm. So all such things, we learn this from nature and also from deception concept. It has been there from ages. uh, we borrowed these concepts and we made that into the enterprise product, those learnings. And that's where the combination of AI and the deception making a big impact. And it is actually catching some of the things which other, like a 0-day attacks or 0-day malware,
Mm-hmm.
which other, uh, even the AI alone, or say signature based algorithms, they cannot detect them.
Mm-hmm. And
So yeah,
yeah.
so the point I'm trying to say is, if you are an AI guy, or you are somebody's been getting into the machine learning and AI, I would say that information security is something which you should jump in, and it is a career for next 2 decades, next 5 decades, or for lifelong, because computers are going to be there. Everybody is right now working from home. During this pandemic has actually caused lot more. It has caused our lives to be more digital now. So the world is going to be more and more digital. So if you want to have a work for the whole life, then the information security also be there, because attackers will be there. They have an advantage. They can choose and come. So as a defender, we need more defenders.
Mm-hmm.
So the message is like, pick up an AI and a security combination and learn the domain, and with the domain apply some more concepts, and then solve the problems, like one at a time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's real true. We are like 80% of digital, especially during the pandemic, and more new social networks, email systems you enter, even as a physical guy, the more dangerous it can be for you. Yes. So, and Do you hire hackers in your team to attack your systems and to find some weak points into it, just like very big companies do?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So we have hired, at some point we used to have a sort of like a chief security architect or chief hacker, you can say, Chris Roberts. He
Hmm.
was a part of Calvio. And we also had a various other hackers under with him. And then also we hire time to time engagement uh, we do with the hackers. And we, because this is a very important, that whatever we have built, if they can attack us and they can tell us that they are able to find these so-called deceptions, like, when, let me give you like a sort of an example of a deception is, we can have some network hosts which may, if you do an nmap, then it may actually give you sort of like, it will give you a response, and it will tell you these are the ports which are open. So now, as an attacker, you may want to do a much more engagement, and if you have some credential, you may want to use that credential against that. Or let's say you have, you look for Active Directory recon, you do an Active Directory recon, and then you see a Kerberos account, and now you Kerberos service account, and you want to actually, as an attacker or as a red teamer, you want to take over
Hmm.
that. Now, many of these entities, we can actually have decoys, we can have deceptions, and these deceptions may give an alert whenever the attacker uses them or
Hmm.
whenever attacker interacts with them.
Wow.
So we do engagements with red teamers so that they can tell us the efficacy of our deceptions.
Wow. It's really amazing. Thank you very much for your vision. Really, very useful advice, guys. If you are interested in cricket, if you are interested in
Exactly.
watching Netflix, any type of industries right now required lots of data analysts and at least one data scientist. So thank you very much, Satnam, for being here with us and sharing your vision and inspiring our students and our podcast listeners. For you guys, please leave your reviews on the platform where you are listening to our podcast, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube. This will help us to get higher ranking. And we do this for you and want to bring you maximum benefit. And if you have questions about data, if you have questions to our future speakers about IT career, please send us your questions in audio format so we will ask the most interesting of them on our podcast. Send your questions to info at the rate of codinginvaders.com. And Satnam, thank you very, very much for being here today with us.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.